Arsenal have finished second in the Premier League for 3 consecutive seasons now, and some could say this is Mikel Arteta's make or break season to finally win a Premier League title. So today I'm going to be going over the 25-26 Arsenal Premier League team and see who's coming into the team, who's coming out, and go over the squad, the new signings, and even maybe some new tactics that Arteta might use this season to finally shake some things up. So let's get into it. Alright, so here we have the full preseason team for Arsenal. Now, the two players that are here that are not currently with the preseason squad are Fabio Vieira and Nani Madueke, because they both played Club World Cup. But other than that, this is everybody in the Arsenal squad minus the main transfer targets here in light blue. So first of all, the players on the pitch are the first team players for Arsenal last season. All of the pink ones are the players that left. Obviously, Raheem Sterling has returned to Chelsea from his one-year loan. Neto, the same thing, but back to Bournemouth. And then Tierney has left to Celtic on a free transfer. Jorginho has left to Flamengo on a free transfer. And then both Thomas Partey and Tomiyasu have left via mutual agreement. Of course, Thomas Partey's contract ran out. Tomiyasu's was terminated, but they are all still gone. So now you see the squad that Arteta was left with at the end of the season. And you see instantly how thin it is. And obviously we will get to the signings. Both him and Berta have made 6 so far. So they're not playing around in this transfer market like last summer where they did very minimal. So the first signing that was announced for Arsenal was Kepa Arrizabalaga, obviously as a backup goalkeeper. This is a really good option, I think, for the fee they got him for, around 5 million Great British pounds. That's great value for money. This is a guy who went for like 70 in the past, has played for Chelsea, has played for Real Madrid. Very experienced. I think he'll be getting a lot of games against lower Champions League opposition and in the cups, or even if Raya manages to get hurt, which wouldn't be great, but he's there, he's experienced. I think many Arsenal fans will be pleasantly surprised with what he brings to the table. Next up was Martin Zubimendi. So obviously here we see the gaping hole in the DM spot. Both Zubimendi and Norgard were brought in here. Zubimendi, of course, will be starting most games. Let's say Arsenal play in a Champions League final next season. You'll see Zubimendi being the one to start in that spot. Norgard will be the rotational option, coming oftentimes the bench. Very smart signing, Norgard. I think a lot of people, again, like Kepa, think Arsenal are just taking from other Premier League teams, but this is a very experienced player, captain of Brentford, really good on the ball, very much the profile that Arsenal need. He's, I think, the oldest player on this Arsenal team, which is crazy. They really needed somebody who could bring their experience and their football wisdom and know-how to this very young, developing Arsenal team, especially with the likes of the academy players up here. The next signing was Nani Madueke. Now, this is a controversial one. Many people, I'll say like myself, don't fully understand this one. I think there's a lot of reason why. I think the fee obviously was quite steep, taking from a Premier League rival in Chelsea, a London rival, nevertheless. It's a very risky signing, but I see why Arteta made it. So obviously last season, Ethan Nwaneri was playing in this right wing spot, next to Saka, behind Saka. Raheem Sterling was also there, but he did very minimal. He was played minimally. Obviously, we see this spot behind Odegaard where he doesn't have a direct backup. Arsenal don't have 2 midfielders for every position. I see Nwaneri dropping back, and there was many times in games which he did play right center mid. I think the same thing up here will occur to Dauman. I will get to that. But I see Nani as the direct backup to Bukayo, who will need a backup. I think Ethan pushes back here. Obviously, there will be times in which he plays right wing. Arteta was even hinting at some center forward games, or even if they play with a more direct central 10, I could see him there. But I could see him getting a lot more games behind Odegaard. The right wing spot is a much better space to start academy players, especially ones who play kind of the attacking mid forward role. You know, if you make a mistake in this area of the pitch, it's much less costly than right here because obviously you're farther away from the goal. Now that he's more experienced playing first team football, I could see him pushing back just a little bit. Nani is here to play behind Bukayo. Next up, we see the very clear gap kind of in the center of the pitch here. The center backs, Arsenal really only have 3. They really needed to get one through the door. Kivior is obviously the direct left-sided center back. We will see Mosquera come into play right center back. He's right-footed. They really needed to bring in a right-sided center back. He could very much play right back at times, play on the left-sided center back. This will be his main goal, is to be a very steady, consistent backup to Bukayo Saka. You see now there's much more options. Everyone has a direct backup. And then obviously the big signing of the summer for Arsenal. The big money signing. Although Zubimendi costs more. Victor Gyökeres, who will come here and no doubt play starting striker for Arsenal. I've seen mixed opinions on this one. On, Football Tactico Twitter, there's a lot of people kind of discrediting this move versus almost every casual I've seen pretty much love the move. I think a lot of people pick at parts of Gyökeres' game. The fact he plays in Portugal is a main one. The fact he hasn't scored many headed goals. I think this is outlandish in many ways. Another claim is that he scores a lot of penalties. It's important to remember he scored over 50 goals for Sporting last season. I mean, it's absurd numbers. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, no other striker got near that in a top league. Of course, Gyökeres isn't playing in a top 5 league. He is now, though. It's important to remember he scored a hat-trick against City. 2 of them were penalties, but still, to score a penalty against City and Ederson, difficult. A lot of people also discredit, again, his heading ability, but I think it's important to remember that for Sporting, he's playing in a 3-4-3. So he's playing with 10s behind him here. So he's not getting direct crosses from over here. He's getting through balls played in through there. And I think that's important to remember because he's not getting as many crosses. With Bukayo Saka much more easily able to get the ball to his head, I think you'll see him score more headers. I really don't see the heading game as a concern. And his runs in behind are incredibly good. I think if Martin Odegaard can get in this kind of advanced 10 role right here and play balls in, his vision, of course, is incredible. Very important for Arsenal. I think Victor Gyökeres will be on the end of those passes. You'll see a lot of this Odegaard to Victor Gyökeres combination next season. So look out for it. So that's the signings Arsenal have made. So, of course, now it comes to sales. So to sign one of these 3 here in the bottom corner, they're going to need a little bit more money. I think Alexander Zinchenko over here, I think he's a near guaranteed out. I think he's easy money. I think if Arsenal can get 20 to 30 for him, they'd be happy. Gabriel Jesus is another one. There's kind of question marks about where will he get game time behind Gyökeres and Havertz next season, especially coming off of his ACL tear. I think it's going to be difficult. I see a move maybe materializing for him this summer if he's able to stay fit or pass a medical. I think that's kind of the main thing. He's not with the squad for the preseason, so I think you kind of have to look for a move for him. Whether or not it materializes now or in January, we'll see. And that leaves us with an Arsenal team that is pretty evenly balanced. I mean, here you see a backup for just about every player on the pitch. Of course, Ethan Nwaneri will hover between these 2. I wouldn't say he's a concrete right-sided center midfielder for next season, but I'm going to put him there for the time being. I think a lot of people are also linking out Leandro Trossard. I think there's a lot of question marks as to whether he's still needed in the squad. Obviously, now he's over 30 years old. He's been with the team for 2.5 years. from Brighton. The question mark is, will he continue? That is to be seen. His contract expires next summer. So do you sell him now? Do you sell him in January? Or do you just let him expire on a free? Of course, that opens up this left wing spot for somebody to come in, maybe over Martinelli. We're going to stick him back here for now. There's two main targets for this left wing spot. You know, both of these are very interesting. I think Rafael Leao, you're not seeing that many links. I think mostly he's linking himself to the Arsenal. You'll see him wearing Thierry Henry shirts or liking Instagram posts or, you know, having a chat with some of our guys at halftime, the Milan game in Singapore. I think he would be a fantastic addition for Arsenal. His pace, his ability on the ball. I think Arsenal have a very strong dependence through playing balls through on this right side, mostly to Bukayo Saka. I think if they're able to switch the pitch with Zubamendi's central control, they can get balls down that side as well. And I think that's what they'll want, because Martinelli doesn't have the ability to drive the ball up the pitch quite like Saka does. And I think Leao has that ability, and I think he'll be able to do that. The question mark, of course, comes with defensive contribution. Will he be able to track back and defend? This has been kind of the issue in the media. I don't think it'll be too big of an issue. I think Arteta will be able to kind of teach that to him. We saw with Max Dowman, he's very young, 15 years old, and he was not only playing on this right side, you know, and driving up the pitch, getting a penalty, but you also saw him dropping back down here and defending. So this is very much something Arteta will drill into a player. I think Leao very much has the potential to have that happen. Rodrigo is the other option. Of course, for Real Madrid, he plays on the right side or even sometimes as a right-sided striker, but he's right-footed, and of course, you want your right-footed winger to be playing on the left side of the pitch. And this is also seemingly what he wants to play. I think you're seeing a lot of Rodrigo links away from Real Madrid to many teams. He kind of rejected Tottenham, but he's also linked to, like, I think I saw Paris, I saw Chelsea, even Man United. Liverpool is another big one. A lot of top teams will want to try to get in for this one. The problem is the wages. Will Arsenal be able to afford him? I think he'll be wanting a lot of money, and it means they're going to have to sell at least some of what's going on over here and the returning loan players down here. I think this would be the best signing for Arsenal. In my opinion, I think his ability to dribble down the side of the pitch and score goals. I think Rodrigo is an incredibly underrated finisher. He's really good at putting the ball in the net, even if he isn't racking up 10 plus goals per season. I think we'll see it a lot more. Keep both of those in mind. Eze is a little bit different. So, of course, he plays as a left-sided 10 for Crystal Palace in a 3-4-3. A lot of people are linking him to kind of play in this left-sided center mid role. I could very much see him playing on the left wing as well. I don't think he would be playing as wide as a Leao or Rodrigo would. He would be kind of pushing into this area. But I think we're going to see that from Arsenal. We're going to see a lot of filling up this area of the pitch. And I think Eze does that very well. Obviously, very, very good dribbling-wise, tight spaces. He's very intuitive with the way he dribbles. He very much reaction dribbles. He doesn't really think about what he's doing. He just does it. And I think that's something that Arsenal need. I think you've seen Arteta in the past go for very systematic wingers. I would say Madueke down here is one in many ways. I think Eze has that flair and that ability to just do something anytime he has the ball that I think Arteta needs, kind of to balance things. I think a lot of Premier League opposition know what's going to happen on this side of the pitch, so if we can kind of spice it up on this side, sky's the limit, right? Obviously, this leaves the academy players and the loanees. I think all of them leave. I think Karl Hein leaves on a permanent deal. Fabio Vieira most definitely also leaves on a permanent deal. Maybe back to Porto, maybe to another Premier League team or a German team. I could very much see it. Albert Sambi Lakanga as well has not made an appearance for Arsenal in the preseason tour in the 2 games so far. Reece Nelson has made an appearance, and a lot of people are saying he looked good. I just don't see Arsenal taking the risk with him again. I think he's proven that he can't stay fit at the top level, and I think for that reason he will also be sold. So If Arsenal can sell those 4 players down there and, maybe 2 of these 3, I think even one of these players down here, or maybe even 2, is possible. You're not going to get all 3 here, but you could get, Leao and Eze. You could get an Eze and Rodrigo. I don't think you get both Leao and Rodrigo. I think that's very difficult. I think it's Eze and somebody else, or even somebody who I've not mentioned that Arsenal are considering. I think Anthony Gordon has been mentioned. There's other names. Up here we have the academy players. These are the ones that were brought to preseason. So I'm just going to knock off the ones who I don't think will be playing consistent first team football next season. I think Louis Copley is one of them. He'll be most likely loaned out or just playing with the U21s. Ismail Kabia has been on the bench and trained with the first team for longer, but really only made 1 appearance for Arsenal last season. I would assume he also goes out on a loan, especially with Max Dowman right here. Jumping over to goalkeepers, Alexei Rojas is most likely going to be 4th string. I'd be surprised if he gets a game, although Jack Porter did get one last season, but I don't see him getting a game, especially with Tommy Setford, who I'm going to put here as the 3rd string keeper. I think we know he's going to be playing 3rd string. I think he got 1 game last year for Arsenal. I'd suspect he gets maybe another or 2. And then it comes to here. These are the serious 4, I would say. The crown jewels. I think Josh Nichols is the most questionable. Plays as a right back. I think we'll be seeing a lot of him at U21 level. I don't know if he'll be playing consistent first team football. I would assume he might get loaned. I don't see a direct path to the first team for him. I think there's too much competition, but he might come off the bench in some games. Andre Harriman Anus is another one, although younger. I think he's 17. He plays as a central striker. He looked good against Newcastle, and in the few minutes he played, I think this is a very talented forward, has scored a lot of goals at youth level, will probably make the jump to higher age groups, and hopefully continue scoring goals. And then maybe if I do this video again in a year, then, we're seriously considering him to be down here in this lineup. And then that brings these 2. I think very much on the same level as Waneri and Lewis Skelly and Saka, who've all graduated from Hale End. These are 2 players that I see playing consistent first team football for Arsenal in the future. The question mark is to how soon. I think Salmon, it's a little bit more difficult to break into one of these center back positions is going to be very difficult. Salmon is still 15 years old. He's a first year in terms of a scholarship deal for Arsenal Academy. We might see him a little bit, but I think they're going to slow it down for him a little bit. He's shown how good he is at playing as a center back. If you didn't know that he was 15 years old and you watched him play against Newcastle, you would think he's played over 50 Premier League games. Like, one pass he made from back in this position was all the way over here. It was insane. But I don't see consistent first team football next season. Dowman, though, obviously the talk of the town. Everybody knows about him now from that performance against Newcastle. I've known about him for a couple months now, since December, when he started training with the first team, at least consistently. 15 years of age, Max Dowman. I think this is important to remember. Waneri wasn't playing consistently until 17. Very, very, very skilled talent. I mean, has the potential to be one of the best players in world football. Probably the best academy talent in the world. Probably the best English talent in the world. His path, though, I think next season is a little cloudy. It's important to remember, again, only 15, so he can't play in the Champions League until December. I don't know about the FA Cup either, but he's allowed to play Prem games and Cup games. He's not going to be starting these games. I could see him starting a Carabao Cup game against a League One team, but I think Arteta's really going to shield how many minutes he gets. So even if you do see a lot of Max Dowman, you're not going to be seeing him play every single week. I think it's important to protect him. It's not necessary to rush him in now, but I do think we're going to be seeing him play a decent amount. I think he's going to be very similar to Ethan Waneri, where he's going to start on the right wing, get established there, and then shift kind of more in this central 10 area or this right-sided 10. Obviously, he's got a very powerful left foot. He's able to kind of dribble through players and then unleash shots with that dangerous left foot. His dribbling style very much emulates the great Lionel Messi, with his ability to just accelerate and just glide past players with ease. It's ridiculous how good he is on the ball. You're going to be seeing him play next season, no doubt, but I don't think you're not going to be getting 2,000 minutes. I don't see it. All right, here we come to the tactics board. I think Arteta sets things up a little different next season. I think we've seen very clearly that this is his preferred formation. He's been playing the 4-3-3 for time now. You know, he's been very consistent with these kind of 3 lines, but they operate very differently. So this is how they line up, but this is not really how they play. So the midfield 3 is important to look at. I think you'll see Declan Rice play as this 8 on the left side. Zubamendi will be playing as the 6 centrally. Odegaard obviously kind of plays more advanced. He kind of plays as a 10. He's playing above the other midfielders. You kind of see this little line system they have. And then sometimes you'll see Timber kind of support here, or even make runs behind Saka here, obviously cross the ball in the center. He's very much an inverting right back. He's going to run behind the winger. Ben White as well does the same thing. You're not going to see this from Miles Lewis-Skelly. You're not going to see him, get crazy high like up this side and cross the ball. Crossing has been kind of his weakness, although we've seen training clips of him trying to perfect it. That's a part of his game which is very teachable. I think we will see that happen. But you very much in times will see him kind of push into this area, and then you'll see the defenders like push back almost into kind of this shape in attacking areas where you'll see the 3, and then Lewis-Skelly will come play DM next to Zubamendi, and then Rice will push up. I think even in preseason we're seeing a lot of times, I'm going to push Lewis-Skelly back, how high both Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard are getting. I think we were seeing that, with a defensive line like this that Newcastle were putting on, because they were playing a 4-5-1. So they were kind of playing this midfield line here. Arsenal's midfielders were getting behind the line. Zubamendi is obviously a big improvement on Thomas Partey. He needs less support. He's much more able to play these through balls. He's able to play, if one of them drops back, a short pass, a pass here, or a pass through this lane, or even a pass out to the winger, a pass out to this other side, a through ball there, or even just a direct pass to Gyökeres to lay off like that. You're going to see a lot of kind of him in this central area running things. I think this is what we've seen from Man City. We will see kind of this 4-1-4-1 at times, with both Declan Rice and Odegaard getting very high, getting very advanced, with the wingers, maybe dropping back a little bit, because Gyökeres is also a striker improvement. So if we can get through balls to him, which are his, that's very much his strength, is getting through balls and powering through defenders with the ball at his feet. I do think we will see, more crosses than Victor Gyökeres is used to receiving. But I think they will also kind of try to suit his play style in a way, and kind of play this. So I would assume we see the wingers drop back a little bit, and then this allows for Dauman to kind of play on this side, or maybe even play like here. This very much also means the same thing for Eze. Can play here. He can play here. I would most likely suspect this kind of central role. I don't think we'll be seeing Arsenal line up quite in this way, but I could very much see against many teams where it kind of shifts like this. I could also very much see this being played at times, kind of this 4-2-3-1, where we see 2 DMs. Declan Rice, or if even he's not playing, you see a Norgard come in, or a Marino come in, but more with a central 10. I think very much Eze would be kind of the main guy in this position. I think the last game of the season, Arsenal played this position. They played a 4-2-3-1 against Southampton, and it was Ethan Nwaneri in this central area. You could even see Kai Havertz play in this area. We saw him play as a midfielder for times at the beginning when Arteta signed him in 2023. I think you could see him play as a second striker to Victor Gyökeres. Obviously, Odegaard's the obvious choice here, but even Declan Rice is able to do it. He's played most of his career as a CDM, but you could see him play as a 10. I think there's lots of options for how Arsenal set up next season that kind of strays away from the classic, typical Arteta 4-3-3. I think teams have kind of caught on to it. So I could very much see this deviation. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you next week. Make sure you subscribe. Join the royal family. Leave a like on the video. And where do you think Arsenal are going to finish next season? Do you think these new signings and these new potential tactics will lead them to a Premier League title? Maybe even a Champions League or an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup? Or will they once again have a trophyless season? Let me know in the comments.